Did you know that leadership in P-pop doesn't always begin on stage? Sometimes it begins much earlier. Not with applause, not with a microphone, but with quiet responsibility, doubt, and choices that feel heavy even when no one else sees them. In today's episode of Did You Know P-pop, we're taking a deep and careful look at Joanna of BINI. Not just as a performer, not just as a leader in name, but as a person whose leadership was shaped by childhood routines, family experiences, repeated auditions, years of training, personal loss, and a belief in the future she carried long before that future became real. This is not a story about overnight success. It's a story about time, consistency, and learning how to stay. Joanna grew up in Calamba, Laguna as an only child. Her father worked as a seaman, which meant long periods away from home. Her mother stayed behind, managing the household and helping run a small family business. Because of this, Joanna spent much of her childhood surrounded by adults rather than children her own age. This environment shaped her early. She learned how to follow routines, how to listen, and how to be aware of what was happening around her. Her days were structured: school in the morning, activities in the afternoon, and evenings at home. She has shared that she didn't feel lonely growing up. Instead, she became comfortable being on her own. She could play by herself, entertain herself, and stay quiet when needed. At the same time, she became observant. She noticed moods, conversations, and unspoken tensions. Being an only child didn't make her withdrawn. It made her attentive. Those habits, listening first, acting later, would eventually become part of how she leads. When Joanna was 13 years old, her mother became pregnant. For the first time, the idea of having a sibling felt real. This wasn't a passing thought. It became something she actively looked forward to. She imagined what it would be like to finally have someone younger than her, someone she could guide and protect. She talked about it openly. She posted about it online. She allowed herself to be excited. On one particular day, she left the house in a good mood. There was a company event for a relative. Music was playing. People were celebrating. She remembers feeling light, happy, and unaware that anything could go wrong. But when she came home that night, the atmosphere was completely different. The house was quiet. Her mother was crying. Her relatives were gathered, worried and shaken. That was when she learned that her mother had suffered a miscarriage. The shift was immediate. Joanna later shared that she cried intensely that night. Even more than her mother. She couldn't eat dinner. She stayed silent, trying to process how something she had been so excited about could disappear so suddenly. That moment stayed with her. It taught her that happiness can change quickly and that time with family is fragile. From then on, family became something she held onto tightly, emotionally and mentally. Before performing ever became a serious path, Joanna had a clear and structured goal. She wanted to become a broadcaster. In school, she was highly active and deeply involved. She joined choir, dance groups, student leadership, and extracurricular organizations. She didn't like staying idle. She thrived in environments where she had responsibilities and goals. Broadcasting became her strongest interest. She trained seriously, joined competitions, and worked on delivery, confidence, and presence. Eventually, she reached regional-level broadcasting competitions, which required months of preparation, rehearsals, and discipline. This path gave her structure and direction. At the same time, she joined workshops that combined singing, dancing, acting, and modeling. These weren't commitments to become an idol. They were opportunities to explore and learn. At this stage, becoming a P-pop performer was not the plan. Broadcasting was. There was a moment when everything could have stopped before it even began. It was early morning. Joanna wasn't feeling well. It was raining heavily. The audition venue was far from home. Her mother hesitated. Traveling early, lining up for hours, and pushing through exhaustion didn't feel practical. It would have been easy to say, "Next time." Joanna went to the terrace of their house. She cried, not because she had already failed, but because the thought of not going felt deeply wrong. She later said she didn't even understand why she was crying that hard. Nothing had happened yet. But something inside her told her that if she didn't try that day, she would regret it. She cried alone on the balcony, torn between fear, doubt, and an urgency she couldn't explain. Eventually, she spoke to her mother again. Her mother agreed. Despite the rain and her condition, they left the house early that morning. That decision didn't guarantee success, but it guaranteed that she wouldn't walk away wondering, what if? That audition became her entry point into ABSCBN's talent system. She began auditioning under Star Hunt Academy, where the process was long, competitive, and unpredictable. Applicants waited for hours, went through multiple stages, and often received no immediate feedback. During this period, she was redirected into auditions for Pinoy Big Brother, eventually reaching callbacks connected to PBB-related. She advanced through rounds that involved acting, group tasks, and personal storytelling. At one point, she reached the final casting stage, close enough to believe she might finally be selected. But she wasn't. Around the same time, she also received callbacks related to World of Dance, where the focus shifted heavily toward performance strength, stamina, and precision. Again, she came close. Again, she wasn't chosen. These were quiet rejections. No announcements, no explanations, just waiting. And then silence. At this point in her life, Joanna was standing between two very different paths. On one side was broadcasting, a field she had already invested years into. She had trained seriously, competed at the regional level, and built a reputation for discipline and consistency. Broadcasting offered structure, a clear progression, and something familiar. On the other side was entertainment, uncertain, unstable, and demanding in ways she was only beginning to understand. What made the decision harder was timing. Her broadcasting competitions were no longer small school events. They required daily training, travel, and preparation for higher-level contests. Walking away meant leaving behind not just a dream, but teammates and responsibilities she had committed to. At the same time, Star Hunt auditions, callbacks, and workshops were increasing in frequency. Each opportunity required more time, more energy, and more emotional investment. Eventually, she had to choose. Joanna decided to step away from broadcasting. Not because she was guaranteed success in entertainment, she wasn't. And not because she had lost interest in broadcasting. She hadn't. She chose entertainment because she knew she would always wonder what could have happened if she didn't try. It wasn't a confident decision. It was a necessary one. After being selected for full-time development, Joanna entered Star Hunt's boot camp and pre-debut training program. This marked the first time her life fully revolved around training. She lived away from her family, something that became even more difficult during the pandemic. There were long stretches where she couldn't go home regularly, and contact was limited. Training days followed a strict routine: vocal lessons, dance rehearsals, physical conditioning, evaluations. Mistakes were corrected immediately. Expectations were high. Progress was constantly monitored. Later, Korean-style training systems were introduced. These emphasized discipline, precision, and stamina. The focus shifted toward consistency, performing well not just once, but every single day. Food intake was controlled. Weight and body measurements were monitored regularly. Practice often extended late into the night, followed by early morning rehearsals. There were days when exhaustion set in before training even ended. There were nights when she questioned whether she could keep going. But she did. During this period of intense training, Joanna experienced another deeply personal loss. Her grandfather passed away. Because of the pandemic and her training commitments, she couldn't be physically present. She wasn't able to go home immediately. She wasn't able to say goodbye in person. The absence weighed heavily on her. She has shared that this loss brought guilt, the kind that comes from choosing one responsibility while losing time with someone important. She questioned whether continuing training was the right thing to do. Her family reminded her of something important. Staying didn't mean forgetting. It meant continuing something she had already worked so hard for, something they believed her grandfather would have wanted her to finish. This moment didn't make her stronger instantly, but it grounded her. As training continued, something became increasingly clear within the group. Joanna naturally took responsibility, not because she was asked to, but because she noticed what needed to be done. She organized schedules. She reminded members of rehearsals. She paid attention to details others missed. When disagreements happened, she listened carefully before speaking. When opinions were divided, she helped the group move forward without forcing decisions. At this stage, she wasn't officially a leader, but her actions already reflected one. Leadership wasn't assigned to her. It slowly emerged through consistency. When positions were eventually announced, Joanna was surprised. She has shared that seeing her name under the leader position shocked her. She was one of the youngest in the group, and many of the members were older than her. She questioned whether she was ready. Leadership brought pressure. It meant being aware not just of her own performance, but of the group's overall condition, emotionally, mentally, and professionally. Over time, she learned that leadership didn't mean doing everything alone. It meant knowing when to listen, knowing when to speak, and knowing when to ask for help. As BINI continued training and preparing for debut, Joanna became known for something else. She talked about the future, not casually, but consistently. She spoke about performing on bigger stages, reaching wider audiences, and achieving things that felt distant at the time. Even when circumstances were difficult, she verbalized these goals as if they were possible. Within the group and among fans, she became known as the manifester. Not because she predicted success, but because she believed in it long before it became real. When opportunities like Coachella eventually happened, many looked back and realized she had been voicing these dreams from the beginning. For Joanna, manifestation wasn't about hoping, it was about direction. As BINI's popularity grew, Joanna entered a phase of her life that no amount of training could fully prepare her for. Visibility. With more performances, interviews, and public appearances came constant attention. Not just admiration, but observation. Every gesture, every expression, every word became something that could be recorded, shared, and interpreted. She has spoken openly about how overwhelming this felt at first. There were moments when short video clips or photos were taken out of context. Moments of exhaustion were mistaken for disinterest. Silence was sometimes read as attitude. Small reactions were given meaning she never intended. For Joanna, this was a difficult adjustment. She understood that being a public figure meant being seen. But she also learned that being seen didn't always mean being understood. As a leader, this awareness became heavier. She wasn't just thinking about how her actions reflected on herself, but how they might affect the group. She became more careful with her words, more conscious of how she expressed herself, and more intentional in how she responded to situations. At the same time, she learned the importance of protecting her mental health. She chose not to absorb everything she read online. She limited her exposure to negativity and focused instead on feedback that was constructive. Feedback that helped her grow rather than tear her down. This wasn't avoidance, it was discernment. Joanna has shared that leadership doesn't mean being strong all the time. It means knowing when to step back, when to breathe, and when to lean on the people around you. She relied on her members. She relied on her family. And slowly she learned that being a leader didn't mean carrying everything alone. Joanna's story isn't about being born confident. It isn't about being fearless. And it isn't about knowing exactly where life would lead. Her story is about becoming. Through time, through repetition, and through choices made without guarantees. She didn't start out wanting to be an idol. She didn't enter the industry knowing she would lead a group. She didn't move forward because she was certain of success. She moved forward because she chose to try, again and again. Her journey shows that leadership doesn't always look loud or commanding. Sometimes it looks like listening first, like showing up consistently, like staying organized when things feel chaotic, like believing in a future that hasn't arrived yet. Being called a manifester wasn't about predicting success. It was about holding on to belief, even during uncertainty. Her story also reminds us that growth often requires letting go of a previous dream, letting go of certainty, letting go of comfort, and in return, gaining perspective. For viewers who are new to P-pop, Joanna's journey offers something universal. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. Sometimes progress begins with simply staying, through doubt, through exhaustion, and through moments when quitting would feel easier. Leadership in the end isn't just about guiding others. It's about continuing to grow while you do. Behind every performance is a story shaped by time, choice, and belief. If you enjoyed this deep dive into P-pop beyond the stage, like the video, subscribe to Did You Know P-pop, and let us know in the comments, which P-pop artist's journey should we explore next? And what part of their story do you want to understand better? Because learning the story makes the music mean more.